Imagine a world where the power to spread knowledge and ideas was so tightly controlled that only a select few could access it. Think about a time when books were handwritten treasures, each one a masterpiece created by skilled scribes, and only the wealthy and powerful could afford them. This was the world before printing, a world where knowledge was a rare and precious commodity, locked away in the hands of a privileged few. But then, a revolutionary invention changed everything. This invention, block printing, emerged in China and spread its influence across the neighboring lands, transforming cultures and societies in ways that no one could have predicted. This is the story of how block printing, a simple yet powerful technology, reshaped the world and paved the way for the modern age. In the 7th century, China was a beacon of innovation and cultural advancement. The techniques of block printing were rapidly evolving, making it possible to produce books and texts on a scale never before seen. At the same time, across the waters in Japan, a cultural transformation was underway, largely driven by the influence of Chinese civilization. Strong leaders like Prince Shotoku, 593-622, played a crucial role in this transformation. He brought the various clans under a centralized government modeled after the Chinese system, and he used Buddhism as a vehicle to import Chinese culture, literature, and arts. Shinto, the ancient and multiform nature worship of the Japanese clans, was the native religion. However, the embassies sent to China by Japanese rulers brought back not only Buddhism, but also a wealth of Chinese knowledge. Prince Shotoku, inspired by the Chinese emperor, addressed his letters with grand titles, such as From the Emperor of the Rising Sun to the Emperor of the Setting Sun. This cultural exchange was profound, and it had a lasting impact on Japanese society. One of the most significant symbols of this transformation was the construction of the capital city of Nara in 710. Modeled after the Chinese capital of Xichang and modern Xi'an, Nara was adorned with magnificent structures, including a colossal 550-ton bronze Buddha, 72 feet high and covered with 50 pounds of gold. This statue, completed between 735 and 749, remains the largest bronze statue in the world. The power of Buddhism was at its peak during this period, and it played a crucial role in shaping the cultural and political landscape of Japan. The influence of Buddhism continued to grow under the reign of Empress Koken, 718-770. When her father, Emperor Shamu, abdicated in 749, Koken ascended the throne. She was deeply influenced by Buddhism and became a fervent supporter of the religion. A charismatic Buddhist leader who charmed her with his lectures soon became her personal physician and chief advisor. Koken placed the government in his hands, and herself became a devout Buddhist. Her piety reached new heights when she ordered the creation of 1 million charms, each placed in a tiny wooden pagoda. These charms, printed using copper block printing, were intended to drive away disease demons and protect the people from the smallpox epidemic that had ravaged the court in 735-37. The story behind these charms is fascinating. According to a Buddhist sutra, a sick Brahmin consulted a seer who predicted his death within 7 days. The Brahmin then sought the help of the Buddha, who advised him to repair a fallen pagoda, write a Dharani charm, and place it in the pagoda. The Buddha promised that reading the charm would extend the Brahmin's life and eventually lead him to paradise. Empress Koken, inspired by this story, ordered the creation and distribution of these charms to protect her people. However, despite her efforts, she died at the age of 52, possibly from smallpox, in the very year the project was completed. The significance of these charms lies not only in their intended purpose, but also in their historical value. They are the earliest known examples of copper block printing on paper, marking a significant milestone in the development of printing technology. The next major example of Chinese printing was the Diamond Sutra of 868, the oldest surviving printed book. This text, which contained sermons by the Buddha on the non-existence of all things, was printed on sheets and pasted together to form a scroll nearly 16 feet long. The merit gained by copying and distributing such texts was considered immense, and the Lord Buddha was said to be present wherever a copy of the Diamond Sutra was found. Block printing had a profound impact on Chinese culture, especially during the Song Renaissance, 960–1127. The technology made it possible to mass-produce a wide variety of texts, including sacred Buddhist scriptures, Taoist magic, treatises on dream divination, and dictionaries. However, handwritten texts, embellished with the traditional art of calligraphy, were still preferred for sacred matters. Printing was primarily used to provide books to those who could not afford the more expensive handwritten versions. The Chinese government played a significant role in the development and regulation of printing. Feng Tao, a prime minister during the Central Chinese dynasty that conquered Shu in western China, recognized the importance of printing the Confucian classics. In his official memorial of 932, he argued that printing these classics would benefit the study of literature. The project took 21 years to complete, and in 953, the director of the National Academy presented the emperor with the entire 130 volumes of the Confucian classics. This monumental task marked the beginning of a new era in Chinese literature and scholarship. The rise of printing also had a significant impact on the arts of memory. Before the Tang dynasty, all books were handwritten, and the art of collecting books was highly valued. Students had to transcribe texts by hand, which helped them develop great ability and accuracy in reciting them. However, with the advent of printing, books became more readily available, and the practice of memorization began to decline. This shift in the way knowledge was acquired and preserved had far-reaching consequences for Chinese society. One of the most innovative uses of printing in China was the creation of the Tripitaka, the complete Buddhist canon, which consisted of 5,048 volumes and totaled 130,000 pages. Each volume was printed from a separately carved block, and the project was completed by 983. The King of Korea received a set from the Chinese emperor, and when a Buddhist priest brought a set to Japan, the Japanese language gained a new term, Surihan, meaning printed book. Other religious sects, including Taoists and Manichaeans, also began to print their own scriptures, further expanding the reach of printed materials. Despite the widespread use of block printing, the Muslim community in China did not print the Quran. However, they did produce almanacs and calendars for their specific needs. The impact of printing on Chinese culture was profound, and it played a crucial role in the flowering of Chinese civilization during the Sung dynasty. When Marco Polo visited the China of Kublai Khan 1216-1295, he was more impressed by the use of paper money than by the block printing of sacred texts. Kublai Khan had developed a sophisticated system of paper currency that served as a substitute for precious metals. This paper money, printed in large quantities, was used for all payments in the empire, and it was accepted by all subjects of the Khan. The system was so well organized that the paper money, even though it was made of silk and perfumed, maintained its value and was widely trusted. However, the history of Chinese paper money is not without its challenges. By the 11th century, shortages of metal and the need for more currency led to the development of a government-supervised system for issuing printed paper money. In the 12th century, the Sung Chinese used paper currency to finance their defense against the Tartars. After their defeat, they continued to print money as tribute. However, the overproduction of paper money led to rampant inflation, and by the 13th century, the currency had lost much of its value. The Sung historian Ma Tuanlin, who lived through the worst of this inflation, chronicled its devastating effects. The paper money became so devalued that people lost confidence in it, and commerce was disrupted. The salaries of officials and soldiers were paid in paper, and the prices of goods rose sharply. The scarcity of copper money made it even more valuable, and the capital collected in the past was no longer a topic of discussion. The people, already disheartened, lost all energy, and the soldiers were constantly worried about their food supply. The inferior officials in all parts of the empire raised complaints about their inability to meet basic needs. This period of economic turmoil was a direct result of the devaluation of paper money. The Tartars, following the example of the Chinese, also began to issue their own paper currency. After 1260, when Kublai Khan completed his conquest of China, paper money became a regular institution in the Mongol Empire. In Marco Polo's day, the paper money was still stable, but in the last years of the Yuan dynasty, 1260-1368, inflation once again became a serious problem. The first emperor of the Ming dynasty, 1368-1644, took steps to stabilize the currency, and he eventually succeeded in reducing the amount of paper money in circulation. The association of printing with unsound currency had a lasting impact on its reputation. For centuries, printed paper money was the only form of printing known to European travelers, and this association contributed to the skepticism surrounding the technology. A paper money debacle in Tabriz, the capital of Mongol-conquered Persia, further tarnished the image of printing. In 1294, the Mongol ruler Gek Hatu Khan issued paper currency in an attempt to alleviate financial pressures. The notes, printed in Chinese and Arabic, promised to eliminate poverty, lower the cost of provisions, and equalize rich and poor. However, the plan failed, and after only a few days, commerce was disrupted, markets closed, and the Khan's financial officer was reportedly murdered. The Venetians and Genoese trading in Tabriz observed these events and were likely discouraged from adopting printing to solve their own fiscal problems. Despite these challenges, block printing eventually found its way to the West, though not through the expected channels. One of the more surprising vehicles for the introduction of block printing was playing cards. Card games, which originated in China, were common in the Mongol armies and were said to have entered Europe through the land of the Saracens. Hand-painted cards were still produced for the wealthy, but the masses had access to printed cards. By 1377, printed playing cards were known in Germany and Spain, and they quickly became so popular that the Synod of 1404 banned card playing by the clergy. In 1423, Saint Bernard of Siena denounced card playing from the steps of St. Peter's, urging his listeners to burn their cards in the public square. Even before Gutenberg began printing books, printed playing cards were produced in Venice, Augsburg, and Nuremberg. The earliest dated paper block print in Europe is an image of St. Christopher, created in 1423. Like the pagodas of Empress Koken, this print was intended to ward off sickness and death. The inscription on the print read, "In whatsoever day thou seest the likeness of St. Christopher, in that same day thou wilt from death no evil blow incur." The ink used in these early European prints, made of lamp black and dissolved in oil, was similar to that used in China, and the paper itself was of Chinese origin. The future of printing in both the East and the West depended on a variety of factors, including the technology, materials, and the language itself. The absence of an alphabet in China posed significant challenges, and the Chinese experimented with movable type in the 10th century. A chronicler from the early Sung dynasty reported that after Feng Tao began printing the 5 classics, all standard works were produced using this method. However, the complexity of the Chinese language, with its thousands of characters, made the widespread adoption of movable type more difficult. In Europe, the development of printing was influenced by the existing techniques of textile printing. Block printing of textiles had been known since the 6th century, and printed fabrics from China and Japan have survived from the 8th century. When Europeans revived the block printing of textiles in the 13th century, they used a simple method of pressing a pigmented block onto the fabric. However, the techniques used in Asia were more sophisticated, allowing for the creation of intricate designs and multiple colors. When block printing on paper finally reached Europe, its uses, materials, and techniques were so similar to those in China that it is likely that the technology was imported from the East. The earliest European block prints, like the image of St. Christopher, used ink and paper similar to those used in China. The impact of printing on European society was profound, and it played a crucial role in the spread of knowledge and the development of the modern world. In conclusion, the invention of block printing in China and its spread to neighboring lands, including Japan and eventually Europe, marked a significant turning point in human history. This technology, which started as a means to produce religious texts and charms, evolved into a powerful tool for the dissemination of knowledge and ideas. The challenges and triumphs associated with block printing, from the production of the Tripitaka to the creation of paper money, highlight the complex relationship between technology and society. The story of block printing is a testament to human ingenuity and the enduring impact of innovation on the course of history.